Guess who's coming to dinner? Chinese President Hu Jintao will enjoy a lavish White House state dinner Wednesday night, the start of an official 4-day visit. Chicago Mayor Richard Daley, who will also receive a visit from Hu, calls it a big deal, big deal, he said. And it is, because in the last year or so, China has been flexing the muscles of a superpower. But is it one? I'm Steve Green. This is Trifecta, and here to answer that question and more are two men so steeped in Chinese culture and history that no one would ever accuse them of being dim. Sorry. From PJTV's international headquarters in Los Angeles, the co-founder of Declaration Entertainment, Bill Whittle, and from our Allentown, PA affiliate, the author of Laughing at Obama Volume 1, Scott Ott. Gentlemen, welcome on board. Bill, let's go to you first. You can't be a superpower without a world-class military. Today, China is preparing to build its first blue water navy in 700 years, complete with aircraft carriers. They've deployed a functional ICBM capable of zeroing in on our aircraft carriers, and they just tested their first stealthy aircraft, the J-20. So I guess the question is, are we about to face a very serious military rival in East Asia?
I'll start by saying that I'm not one of those people who think, oh, Pshaw, nothing to worry about. That's a dangerous position to take, and I'm sure the people who are tasked with our nation's security in the Pentagon don't feel that way either. But with that said, having a jet that's got sharp angles on it doesn't necessarily make it a jet fighter. That particular jet, the J-20, is enormous. It's 20 feet bigger than our F-35. It's 15 feet bigger than our F-22. Our F-22 and F-25 underwent 10, 15, 20 years of flight testing and technology. Just because a thing looks like a stealth fighter doesn't mean it has zero radar reflection. So that's number one. Number two, having a jet that even is a stealth fighter is useless if you don't know how to employ the jet. The U.S. military relies on a tremendously intricate system of AWACS controls. They have drones. They have aircraft that are specifically tasked to take out anti-aircraft systems. A stealth fighter might not be a bad choice for that. You have air superiority fighters. You have ground attack fighters. China has none of these things. China is rolling out a jewel that looks like the jewel of the United States, and I don't think that's terribly impressive. This ship-tracking ICBM missile is a serious threat if it works. We don't know if it works. We say we've got a missile defense system. It works, it worked hardly at all until we spent 15, 20 years on it. My entire point here is trotting out a couple things that look like killer weapons does not a superpower make. A superpower is a power that can project force and do it consistently, and we've been doing that for 60 years, and it ain't as easy as it looks.
60 years, you sell ashore. We've been doing it since 1917. All right, Scott, the Brits have a very capable little military, but, we don't worry about them. We're best friends, or, well, we were until Obama started in with all the insults and neglect and such. But attitude counts. What's like these days?
It's really hard to read, and we have to make a distinction between the government of China and the people of China. Although when the government is speaking, they never make that distinction. They say they are speaking for the people of China, but we know because of the people that we've met who have come here to get their education, to start businesses, and frankly, to flee that oppressive atmosphere, that there's a vast difference between the people and the government that purports to speak for them. It looks like they're trying to have it both ways right now. They want to be a dominant type superpower, and they'd like to push us around, but they also realize that our creativity, our prosperity, and frankly, our liberty make us the biggest market that's ever going to be in the world. And so they got to be nice to us.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is China has this bizarre combination domestically of oppression and lawlessness. It might be kind of unique for a major nation. Bill, let's step away from the attitude for a sec and into actions. China's become a neo-imperial power in Africa, which is a totally underreported story. Maybe we should get into that someday. They've been on a shopping spree in Europe, buying up Spanish and Portuguese debt with, well, dollars we sent them, and they're making new friends right there in NATO. What can we do in response, or is there anything we should do in response?
I think we need to keep their military, first of all, keep their military prowess in perspective. They are working on a single aircraft carrier. Let's just remember something, guys. There's only two nations in the history of the world that know how to run naval aviation. It was the Japanese and the United States of America, and those two nations went head-to-head in World War II. Having an aircraft carrier does not mean that you know how to project force, and I think that's something that we just constantly need to keep in mind. As far as the larger picture goes, I think that if you had to ask me what the greatest threat from China today in terms of an attacking threat, it would be their cyber capabilities. They apparently have a very serious effort and a very serious staff of people who are designed to to attack our computer systems. This is an area we're very vulnerable in. I'd be very worried about that. But as far as the economic picture goes, let's remember these people have 4 times our population. They produce about 1/4 of our GDP. It's exactly like Scott said. Innovation and freedom creates the new things in the world that people want to buy. And Steve, you said on one of our shows not too long ago, somebody knocked the wind right out of me. America historically has been where the money is. And in the information age, information products like Facebook and Google and Apple and Microsoft and all the rest are American-made products. Those are not China. Nothing new comes out of China.
Very true, especially since I said it. All right, Scott, China, they're sitting on a stockpile of over $2 trillion US, which is about as much debt as the federal government racked up last year alone. And their economy is expected to grow another 8 to 10% this year again. Despite what Bill said, is China the economic juggernaut that we used to be?
Well, I won't refer to us in terms of used to be, because I think we still are an economic juggernaut, and I do think that all of Asia has prospered as a result of our economic juggernautasy, or whatever the word for that would be. You know, in George W. Bush's book, Decision Points, he talked about a private meeting that he had with Hu Jintao, the Chinese premier, and he was trying to sort of break the ice and ask him, you know, what is it that worries you? What keeps you up at night? And President Bush shared that for him it was the possibility that there might be a terrorist attack on our country. Hu Jintao said, without apparently missing a beat, he said, what keeps me up at night is how to come up with 25 million new jobs every year. And Bush took that as the fact that this guy is not necessarily a communist ideologue, that he's more of a practical bureaucrat who's just trying to figure out how to make that engine keep pumping. At some point, they may come to realize that freedom is the recipe for prosperity.
And Steve, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
I can hardly wait for that day.
I just want to add one thing that people, again, that Americans need to keep in mind, because the left would have you believe that we're finished. That's what they want you to believe. They want you to believe America's finished. When you look at China's economic growth rate, you have to understand they are starting from the Stone Age. Their baseline is 0. Those people were working rice paddies 10, 15 years ago in Mao jackets. So when you talk about that kind of economic expansion and try to compare it to the economic expansion of the United States, they are literally starting from the Stone Age. And that's something people need to keep in mind.
It's true. You get these columnists who come back glorifying everything being new in China. That's because nothing there was more than 15 years old. It just didn't exist. All right, Bill, let's finish up. Flat earther Thomas Friedman wished we could beat China for just one day and really get some stuff done. Let's take it one step further. Let's just swap D.C. for Beijing for that one magic day. What do you think would happen?
What's the difference? Washington has gone from being a provincial city in a country that was dominated by huge centers of commerce, New York, which was a financial hub, Chicago, which was, of course, a livestock and a trading hub, a futures hub, L.A., which was a aerospace and an entertainment hub, and so on. And Washington was an out-of-the-way town. But with the Democrats in power and with this gigantic grab for large statism on the part of the Obama administration, Washington is becoming what it never was, the capital of America in terms of where all of the action is. That's a very dangerous problem. If I had this man's power of dictatorship, which is what he apparently wants, that's why he likes China so much. They're all fascists when you scratch the surface of these big liberals. What it comes down to is this. If I had Washington for a day, I would simply eliminate all of these regulations. I'd sunset everything, and the stuff that had to be there, I'd reimpose. Otherwise, I'd let America be America. I'd get out of the way.
That's Bill Whittle, benevolent dictator, and he's everywhere. He's here on PJTV at BillWhittle.net and his YouTube channel, and of course, Declaration Entertainment. Scott, if it's true that China's structural problems are even worse than ours, and I believe they are we too self-centered as a nation to appreciate that truth? How do you say Potemkin in Mandarin?
I don't know how to say Potemkin in whatever language Potemkin is in. You know, I think that we talked about this yesterday in our weekly conference call. We need to remember, and these flat earthers that you were quoting earlier need to remember as well, that you are talking about a completely different system, a different worldview, a different kind of country. And when we start comparing ourselves to China, we have no idea. Because we live and breathe and enjoy this freedom, we think that everybody else sees the world the way we do. It's not that way. China's success is not what it looks like.
And that's Scott Ott, Lehigh County GOP executive, publisher of Scrapple Face, and the author of Laughing at Obama, Volume 1. Folks, you know, we worry about our struggling economy, and we should, but China needs to create 17 million jobs a year, every year, just to keep even. That's almost as many jobs as this country created in the whole of the 90s. And that's the simplest of China's problems, is job creation. It always seems like we're facing some dangerous rising competitor, whether military or economic. The Soviet Union, Japan Incorporated, the European Union, and now China. And every time that competitor is a country much more closed off, much more top-down, much less free than our own. And every time the wise men in D.C. and New York have told us we need to become more like them. But every time we've stuck to our guns, literally and figuratively, and that rising competitor has taken a nasty fall. And we are still standing. And so long as we stay open and free, we will stay right here on top. Thanks for clicking in, and if you're watching us on Facebook or YouTube, check out all our episodes at PJTV.com. For Scott Ott, Bill Whittle, and everybody here at PJTV, I'm Steve Green.